Good evening, gamers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Games with Dave. Tonight, I have the pleasure of being joined by another Dave and a fellow Mainer and game designer, Dave Ward. Dave is running the already funded and totally awesome Ironbound urban fantasy RPG over on BackerKit. If you haven't checked it out, you can click the link in the description below. And yeah, welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing on this roasty, toasty September evening?
I am exhausted. This is between my 12-hour stream, this interview, and the interview I had a few hours ago. I'm done. You're getting burnt out, Dave. So
yeah, you're getting overly caffeinated, Dave. Like I was telling you before we started, I think every ounce of caffeine I've ingested today just kicked in, and it's like I'm just like, brr. So yeah. So congrats on funding, man. That must be a great feeling. Did you even go to bed last night or just stay up and watch it hit goal?
I did because, well, initially I kind of wish I hadn't because there was problems with the pledge tiers. So I made a mistake and I restricted some countries and that caused a major issue. So I had to undo the restrictions by hiding the current pledges and then do a whole new pledge tier.
Oh man, that sounds like a pain in the you know what.
At least they had a solution for it. So
that's good. So how do you like BackerKit? Like using that as opposed to like Kickstarter or
I've never used Kickstarter, so I couldn't tell you.
Oh, all right.
I like BackerKit. Everything I found from them, they've been very helpful customer service wise. They've been useful. They did a complete review of my thing and gave me pointers on how to fix it. Hey, Jacob.
Hey, what's up, Jacob?
So it was just one of those neat little things. I went with them because they take less of a percentage.
Nice. Yeah, that's always good to get a little bit more in your pocket when you're working on a project like this instead of having them take more. And here we go. And Jacob says he's a huge fan of Ironbound.
Jacob's been a very instrumental supporter of Ironbound. Very happy to have him as a supporter.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for helping out, Jacob. So what game initially pulled you into the world of role-playing games?
D&D 2nd edition.
Nice.
I was 12 years old. We were playing 2nd edition, and then 3rd edition came out, and we jumped on that bandwagon.
Nice. Now, when you say 2nd edition, do you mean AD&D or AD&D 2nd edition?
AD&D 2nd edition, because I'm young enough. I'm young enough that it was still new.
Yeah, I killed a whole party of people with a couple of tree ants in my younger days of not really knowing what I was doing. And they were like, dude, what the hell are you doing to us? Why are you doing this? And live and learn. Now I try not to get the TPKs. Hey, what's up, Chantel? How are you? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I definitely... you will find that Ironbound is written to make the characters, the players, heroes, because that's how I play my games.
Nice. So how did you go from playing AD&D 2nd edition to creating Grimwood games and becoming a game designer?
So I started, I took some time off because I had a son. And as we all know, kids, when they're young, are time consuming. So I took about 5 years off and I was getting thoroughly depressed. And my wife's like, you need to start gaming again. I don't care how you do it, but you need to start gaming again. So I started gaming. So I got into 5e. I bought the books for 5e. I totally missed the 4e generation because of my time off. So I dove into 5e hard. And I pretty much memorized that. I pretty much have that memorized, rulebook memorized. Awesome. And I got bored with it. So I started looking for other games. And I started with Savage Worlds, which love Savage Worlds. Don't get me wrong, but it still wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for something quick, simple, and easy. And Savage Worlds, it's quick, it's quick and easy, but it's not simple. So I then found Easy D6 and Index Card RPG, both of them at the same time. And Index Card RPG, I didn't like the leveling system in it. Excuse me. I didn't like the leveling system in it. So I dove headfirst into Easy D6. And while I was at Savage Worlds, I was writing a custom world for urban fantasy, because Savage Worlds is, you can do pretty much any setting in that game system,
right,
which is nice. And as I was writing it, I found I couldn't find any other urban fantasy games because I was looking for a replacement for Savage Worlds. I found Modern D20, which was 5e, which I didn't want to do. And then I found a couple others, but World of Darkness stuff. But their world is so centered around their setting, it's hard to write a custom setting for it. It's not impossible, but it's hard. So those are about the only games I found, and Shadowrun, which was too cyberpunky for me.
Right.
So I was like, I'm writing an urban fantasy. I love Dresden. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernaturals, and all those type of urban fantasy shows. I said, I'm writing an urban fantasy. And that's where Ironbound started.
Nice. That is so cool. So you brought up Easy D6, and one of the things that I noticed is you've got a different dice mechanic with Ironbound that I haven't seen before, using simply a D12.
I do, but it's heavily inspired by DM Scotty's Easy D6.
Nice.
Because his dice mechanic is very similar to mine, except it's with a D6. But mine has a benefit where you can boost the roll with different pools that you have. You have 3 different pools that you can pull from: your arcane, physical, and mental. And these pools can actually boost your roll. So you can actually make a roll a critical success by boosting it enough if you want to.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. So with this system, how easy is it, or how quick, I should say, is character creation for Ironbound?
I can get somebody. Okay, that's a kind of tricky question.
Okay.
It's based on the player, because there is player paralysis that happens in my game on character creation, because there's so many feats that players tend to want more than one, and they have to choose one, and they're stuck. So if you ignore player paralysis situation, you can make a character in about 10 minutes. If you know the feats you want, and you can just,
Nice.
There's no rolling of stats except for health. Everything else is strictly point system.
Dude, that's great. Like a 10-minute character creation. Boom.
As long as you don't have player paralysis.
Yeah.
Player paralysis is a big problem because it's a big list of feats. I have over 115 feats that you can choose from.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of feats.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is Maggie. Maggie is my GM for Blades in the Dark and D&D. She's an awesome
I
GM.
still haven't played Blades in the Dark. I'm going to play it next weekend.
Nice. It is such a fun game. And yeah, our crew that we have in the game is a little bit twisted, which we can go into later after we've gotten through this. But so another thing that I thought was really cool that you do, that I have seen with some other, like that's done similarly in other systems, is the cards for initiative. And how is it different with Ironbound versus, say, Dragonbane?
It's not really.
It's not. Okay. Cool.
Dragonbane and Ironbound's initiative are so. Here's the story about the initiative. I wanted something where you rolled initiative every round, and I hate not being able to. I hate getting stuck at a low initiative when I want to go first. So I was playing with D12s, and then I was adding, like, you could add your physical to it to get a higher stat, but that it just slowed down the game. And then I played Dragonbane, and I was like, wait, this initiative is neat. It solves so many problems. So I heavily used it. I did change some things, and the one thing that I changed was that instead of just using 1 through 10 cards, I wanted to be able to pick up a regular deck of cards and use them. So I've made it 1 through 13, and you can use one suit of in a card set to handle the situation.
Nice.
But it was heavily inspired by Dragonbane. There's a lot of inspiration that I taken for this system. But that happens with every system.
I was going to say that's how everything really gets made. Like, if you saw my house, you'd be like, dude, there's no way you're ever going to play all these games. And that's not really their intent. It's stuff to kind of cherry pick things from, of like, ooh, I like this mechanic in Call of Cthulhu. I like this mechanic in Dragonbane.
That is 100% how I made the system. There's some stuff that I came up with, but in general, it was, I really like this system, this mechanic, and how they do it, and I like that feeling. So I want that feeling.
Yeah, like it feels like this game, from what I was able to read the last couple of days, is going to be really kind of a cinematic feel to it, if I'm not mistaken.
I hope so.
It seems like it's really going to give that off. Like, I picked it up right off reading. So,
I mean, I made the setting very cinematic. The setting is very movie-esque, in my opinion.
It seems to be. I'm excited to play it. So I might have to switch my pledge if the other one of the two is still available there, and have you run for my crew. I might have to change it.
Jacob stole one of them.
Nice.
And he was the first backer.
Nice. Way to go, Jacob.
So
I've had one where I was almost the first backer, and I had to refresh because it wouldn't let me back. And I ended up being like backer number 4 on the project. And I was so bummed out to not be number 1. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
All right. I was just going to say, I really want to dive into the world now, because it looks like a very, very, very rich world, I guess would be the word to say. What can you tell me about the world of Ironbound, and more specifically Grimwood City itself? It looks like it's a huge city looking at the map.
So it's 9 districts in the city. The districts are Don Row, High Rise Center, Iron Chapel, Littleton, Marble Rock Pier, Obsidian Silkway, and Winter Bank, and Wolfwater. That being said, they're very distinct in their feel. Example, like, I don't want to go through all of them, but like Wolfwater is where most of the were creatures live, and it's the slums of the city. It's also the largest district in the city, but it's also the slums of the city. So, like, this is where you're going to find most of the crime. This is where you're going to find most of the problems. I did that because I wanted High Rise Center, which is mostly all the skyscrapers, to have for Wolfwater to be like in the shadow of the business and the corporations.
Nice.
So to answer your question, it's very I've had people explain it this way to me. You get Shadowrun feel without all the extra complexity of Shadowrun.
Nice. That's actually pretty cool sound.
Because you have multiple factions that are in the world. I think there's I think there's 30 different factions that I put in the game. Don't quote
Holy
me on
cow.
that. It's a lot, but I can't remember the exact number. But there is a corporation section in the faction book that is just 6 different corporations, and they all do good, but they are all bad if you look into them. Like, there's seedy stuff going on in all of them.
So it's kind of like the real world in some sense.
Pretty much. And not only that, I have a whole MIB organization organization called Orb. They're the observational. Now I'm spacing. God, I'm tired. Oversight Reaction Bureau. So Oversight Reaction Bureau, and they handle all of the magic. They make it so magic is not known to most of the city. They kind of come in and, use empaths and stuff and kind of make it seem like the gas leak happened.
Gotcha.
Type deal.
Nice.
I could go on and on about factions because there's a lot that I didn't put in the book.
Well, I'll have to pick your brain. We'll have to get together and I'll pick your brain about this and all that fun stuff. I actually got to thinking after what we should have tried to do is a live interview. Not a live interview, but in person.
In-person interview. Yeah,
we'll have to do another one another time. And that'll be I tried to provide enough stuff in the book that it would give DMs enough to work with, but not enough to dictate this is how it has to be. Right.
Because I hate reading a setting and as much as I like the Werewolf Apocalypse and Masquerade, their setting is this is the way it's played, and that's how you're going to play it, pretty much. I wanted something a little bit more freeform, something that you as a DM could take and mold to shape your own way. Yeah, I really like. Well, with 30 factions, you're definitely going to be able to, for sure. And what's up, Avenue Studios? How are you? Hey, Dan. How you doing? And then we've got Great Mustache saying, "Root, what's up?" So 2 creatures, for whatever reason, and I think it's why I backed at the level that I did. Monsters are always one of my favorite things in the games, and chipmunks and squirrels are some of my favorite creatures. And one of the first that popped out to me was the celestial chipmunk. Yep. And the other that really hopped out to me was the coffee goblin. I kind of pictured basically me and Dobby's body. I could have guessed coffee goblin. It seems to be the most popular. And if we make if we go to the highest tier, I'm going to include the coffee goblin as a playable race. Oh, nice. So that'll be one that I will definitely play. Actually, in one of the games that Maggie ran, I played Blint the Goblin, and I found this set of dice that nobody in the group wanted me to take, and I took them because I was a mischievous little goblin, and it turned out that it was basically a deck of many things in dice form. So I rolled, and I got to face the Avatar of Death and narrowly beat him. I have some interesting items that I kind of came up with for magic in this world. What's your favorite? Oh, I knew you were going to ask that. That's why I was moving to I could hear the scroll button going on your mouse. I think my favorite magical scroll that you can use is actually Thorn's Infernal Shackles. they actually grapple the person with celestial chains. But there's other ones that are so great, like Jajin's origami, where you can fold paper and create a companion animal out of the folded paper.
That is so cool.
And then I really like the potion, a couple potions. I have Street Flow Conductor Elixir. It gives you the ability to control traffic lights and minor electronics.
Nice.
Because there's technomancers in this, and there's hackers, so you gotta have something. I felt like I needed some kind of like magical items for the technomancer.
Nice. So one thing I want to go back to that we kind of touched on was the lycanthropes. There are a lot that I noticed in this game. We kind of talked about it before we went live.
There are.
How much of an influence was, say, the Underworld series on
this a little game? Bit. I mean, I can't lie. It was probably definitely influenced. I wasn't a conscious influence, but I'm sure it did influence. I love those movies. So
yeah, they're fantastic.
I will say that my were creatures only have two forms, human and hybrid. They don't have a wolf form or bear form or.
Oh, that's cool. So they're like half human, half.
There's human and hybrid, and that's it. That's all you get.
Nice. That is very cool. I'm scrolling through now at the same time. I'm trying to. So what are some of the stretch goals on the project? I know I saw there's like 4 or 5 of them. What are they?
The stretch goals. So the very first one, and the very first 2 are basically what I used to play test the game. They were adventures that I wrote to play test the game. But they're being made by the maps are being made by Dread Maps, who is an extremely talented map maker. Especially for the tools that he uses, he manages to create really interesting maps. And the first one is going to be the night lights went out in Grimwood City.
Ooh.
It's kind of play on like the country song, when the nights went out.
In the city?
In the city, yeah.
Nice.
And then the second one, right now, it's only called the Casino Heist, but that change is going to get changed. Basically, you're hired by the Summer Queen to retrieve a gem in a vault of a casino.
Ooh.
So, and then the next, those are for the 1,000 and 2,000. If we happen to get to 3,000, I'm going to include a VTT module that is going to have everything in the book that you can use with the system, because I already have a Foundry system for this game, because I'm a big Foundry user.
Oh, excuse me. We both have the burps tonight.
I'm sorry. I've been drinking.
Dude, I get them
soda
every night. So I get them every time I do an interview. It's the most bizarre thing. I don't know if it's like some subconscious nerve thing.
I've been drinking so much soda the past 2 days because trying to stay awake from my 12-hour stream and then surviving. So that's why I have the burps. So there will be a Foundry module where you'll have everything. You'll have all the feats. You'll have all the items. You'll have everything that you can just drag and drop onto the characters right there. You'll have all the monsters. They'll all be right there. The $4,000 one is initiative cards. I'm going to create digital initiative cards that you can order through drive-through and get at cost if you wanted physical cards of them. They'll also be included in the Foundry module.
Nice.
So you'll have that too. And the last one is 3 new classes: musician, mechanic, and circus freak.
Very cool. The circus freak sounds very intriguing. What can you tell me about that one?
Absolutely
If you
nothing.
want to
I haven't
spill
created
anything,
them.
okay. Easy enough. I was
I
going to say if
haven't.
you didn't want to spoil it, but
I have
you
the
made it even
musician. I
easier.
have the mechanic because those were kind of in my ECD6. But the circus freak is something new that I'm probably gonna have to develop.
Nice. DM Tail says, I want the 3K stretch goal.
Well,
I want the 4K. Like, I am a completionist with every game that I own. So if we could get to the physical cards I could order from Drive-Through RPG, then I'd be
I
like
will
a cat
say
stretched
that
out in the sun.
most of these stretch goals will probably happen no matter what.
Nice.
But if we can get the stretch goal money, it will happen quicker.
Nice. I getcha. Man, I am scrolling through looking at all of these. Wow, I just lost my train of thought. We're both having a day.
I'm exhausted. I apologize. Yes, the faction.
Oh, you're good. I am way too caffeinated. Brian and Dieter for my next stream are in absolute trouble because either I'm going to be super hyper or I'm going to crash like a brick by the time that we're done. Yeah, I am just looking at all these factions and just blown away, man. It is.
And I had to cut so much from the factions. I didn't cut any factions, but I cut a lot of descriptions about the factions just because it was taking up too many pages. It was going to cost me too much to make the book. I had to cut it.
Well, you could always do another backer kit project in another year or so, the Book of Factions for Ironbound.
That's a very good possibility because I do have a lot more factions. One thing I don't think, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've included this in the book I gave you, but I do have a mechanic for vampire infections too, because I thought that was important.
Trying to scroll through. Let me see if I can find that.
It would be on page 35 if you had it.
35.
I can't remember if I included that in that version or not.
Nope. 35 for me is the conditions table.
Yeah. So the way the vampire infection is going to work is basically as a vampire, when you bite someone, which the Corophon vampires bite and draw blood, but the Emovarians actually absorb your emotion from a touch attack.
Oh, weird. It's on 34 for me, actually. It is here.
Oh, okay, good. I have done some updates, so that's a possibility. And basically the way it works is you're going to end up having to make a physical check, of a really tough physical check of 11 plus. So that means 11 or 12 is the only way you're going to succeed. And if you fail, you get a mark of doom, which the mark of dooms are basically death saves for you.
Nice.
And every mark of doom that you have, you get a bane. So when you have 2 marks of doom, you get 2 banes on everything.
Oh man.
So, and when you get 3 marks of doom, the character dies and essentially comes back as a vampire.
Nice. I've got a question that just popped into my head. Is there a daywalker?
All of my vampires can walk through sun.
Oh, all right. Well, that answers that question.
So none of them have that sun condition. It was a big... I debated about it for a long time, about the vampires. The only ones that... at least all of the playable vampires, playable races, are daywalkers.
Gotcha.
There is a faction of vampires called the Mercedes that are kind of like your Nosferatu type vampires. They're very disfigured, and they don't have the capability of walking in the sun.
Very cool. That just gave me the imagery. That movie that came out the last. Oh boy, was it the Demeter?
I don't know.
Oh, there's this vampire movie out there you'll have to check
I
out.
don't usually watch vampire movies. I actually
Oh,
find vampires very scary. So
really?
yeah,
Interesting. Well, this movie would probably scare the living bajumpus out of you because it's one chapter pulled directly from the Dracula novel of
nice.
the ship coming over with Dracula's coffin in it. And the whole movie takes place on this boat, basically, of Dracula killing everybody on the ship. And spoiler alert, but if you've read the like Bram Stoker, you know
Yeah,
anyway. So
yeah. That's actually cool. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, vampires are not something I'm big into.
wow.
though, um, though I do like the Underworld series. Um, Less of a horror type feel. I like vampires. It's when they start becoming more horror movies that I have issues with it.
See, I'm kind of that way with werewolves because one of the very first horror movies I ever saw, much my parents didn't know I was sitting at the bottom of the stairs while they watched it one night, was The Howling.
Ooh, that's a bad one
And
to first be your
yeah, that
first
was my
one.
intro to horror movies. And I remember at one point in the movie, I let out like this little chirpish type scream, and my mom or my dad looked over and were like, "What are you doing over there?" And I'm like, and they're like, "Go to bed." And I couldn't sleep that night because I thought I was just waiting for like that clawed hand to come up over my bed and pull me under.
That was Freddy Krueger for me. So
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I used to be like this watching Friday the 13th movies when I was a little kid and like watch them through my fingers. So
I'm a big pansy when it comes to horror movies.
I'm not really, and I have turned my 14-year-old daughter into a horror nut.
That's good.
It is. She lives out of state with her mom, and I recently gave her my password for my Voodoo account, and my view count on every horror movie on there is slowly going up, 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 up. And she's like, "Dad, I watched The Lost Boys like 5 times this week." And I'm like, "That's my kid." Is there anything we haven't touched on this that you feel like we should
vehicles.
hit? Vehicles, yes, duh.
My vehicle mechanics are really interesting. So vehicles have what we call vehicular points, and basically they're actions that your driver and your passengers can take while in combat with vehicles. And the driver can take different actions and it costs different points of vehicle points, such as like an evasion maneuver where you can get a +2 to your car defense against an attack, or you can slam on the gas and go a little bit faster and get a couple more spaces in there before ahead of people. But there's also stuff like stunt maneuver, which costs like 3 vehicle points, but you do an outrageous maneuver such as driving off of a building or hitting a ramp to leap over another car.
Nice.
So you have that cool cinematic thing. But what's really cool is your passengers also can use vehicle points to do things. They don't have to. They can shoot from the window without using a vehicle point, but they take a bane. If they use a vehicle point, they can shoot like they were standing on ground.
Nice.
But there's other things they can do, like they can use vehicle points to make it so they can jump from one car to the other without taking a bane to do so. And on top of that, vehicles can be enhanced, which reduces their vehicle points, but gives you things for it, such as like missile launchers and license plate switchers and things like that.
Dude, that is rad. I'm looking through the vehicle now, and there's like tanks.
Yes.
And that would be one hell of a way to roll through town.
I really wanted to give the option to DMs to not only like have air combat, but but combat. There's cars, there's ATVs, there's water vehicles, there's air vehicles, there's military vehicles. I wanted to give the option of however you wanted to do your car chase or anything, you're able to do it.
That's so rad. I can't wait to play this, dude. I'm going to have to find a way to jump into a game, or we'll hang out and have you run a game.
Join my Discord.
I will.
I run games all the time of it.
And Avenue Studios, he said, oh, man, we got to have a car chase in our next one shot with you. And then Jacob said, werewolves driving tanks. That could be pretty rad.
Yep. Or were-tigers, or were-bears, or were-lions.
As long as it's not the were-spiders, I'm cool.
I made it so player characters can't do were-spiders.
Yeah, well, they could still be driving a tank, theoretically, if they're on the other side, or no?
They could. Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to see a spider driving a tank.
What's also interesting is there's also a place underneath Grimwood City called the Halls of the Pharaoh One. It's basically an ancient monster city that is fallen into ruin. And there's a lot of magical items down there, and there's a lot of treasure that can be found there. So not only can you do your heist type situations, not only can you do car chases and that type of thing, not only can you do like your typical urban fantasy type situations, but you also have the capability of doing dungeon delving in the game.
Nice.
So you can actually still have that feel of Dungeons and Dragons and just go down into the Halls of the Pharaoh.
Dude, that sounds sick. Actually, like I can just picture like this kind of like a spec ops team going underground to like just raid the underground, and with their night vision goggles, laser scopes, and everything, and then they just get wiped out.
Yeah, definitely. And another situation, another thing that we didn't talk about was what was it? I just had it and spaced right out of my head. I do have religions in the system.
I've got that written down here, and I missed it.
There's the major religion in Grimwood City is the Church of the Silver Flame, which is basically my Christianity proxy in the world. But what's interesting about them is they actually have a subdivision called the Church of the Saints, who actually fight a demon celestial war. And they actually take children that are archlings from their parents and train them to fight in this war.
Very cool. So that kind of gives me the Jedi vibe.
Yeah, kind of.
A little bit of the younglings. Where, here, your kid's got this special talent. We're taking them.
Pretty much.
Another thing I saw that looks really cool is the wands. It looks like there's a fair amount of wands in the game.
There are. And what's interesting about wands is anybody can use them in the game, but wizards get a boon to them, and they also don't have to pay the arcane cost for them. So wizards can use wands pretty freely.
Nice.
Where other classes have to actually spend arcane points to actually cast the wand.
Chantel says she wants a tank.
We didn't talk about the classes either.
We didn't. I know. I really dropped the ball on this one today, man.
So the classes you have 9 different classes. You have assassins, which are basically lethal killers. They get a lot of power die damage added to their attacks. You have hackers who have the capability of actually affecting electronics around them. Not as proficiently as a technomancer, but still pretty proficient. You got the holy warriors, which are like the warriors who are fighting the angel demon war. You have mediums, which are your telekinetics and your empaths. You got your monster hunter, which are typically the people. Monster hunters kind of come from a book series that I really like called Monster Hunter International.
Yep, I've heard of
So
them.
I've kind of like that's where that inspiration came from.
Very cool.
The priest, which are basically your healers. Your soldier, who ironically is not your fighter. If you want to play a fighter, I always recommend a holy warrior or a monster hunter first. Your soldier is the one that will command the battlefield. They have the capability of putting allies in the right places. They have the capability of helping allies, assisting allies. They're very supportive in their roles. They do still have a nice physical. They still have a nice hit health dice. So if you want to play a fighter, warrior, or soldier, you can. But their overall aspect is not that. They're supposed to be a support class. You have thieves, which are basically your thieves. They are deadly when not seen. And then you have your wizards, who have the capability of picking up any of the magical societies in the game, which we have. Interesting thing about the magic in the system is it's open. There is no spell list. There is no, this is what you're going to be able to do. It's, here is your magic and how it kind of coalesces. You tell the DM what you want to do, and they'll put a target number on that.
Very neat. So I could be the wizard. We could be pinned down in a situation. I'd be like, I want to make a door over on that wall to get us out of here.
If you can explain to me how your magical society will allow you to do that.
Very cool.
So I don't think like a alchemist would be able to just magically create a door unless they happen to have a potion that is they've prepared that is to open the magical door.
But they could make a metallic fist that could punch through the 100% wall and get you out of there.
Or like a necromancer. If you're opening up a door, it's a door to hell, and I don't know if you want to go there.
No. I could just see that you just open the door and then slam it and be like, oh, not going that way.
So, like, but a necromancer could make a bridge out of skeletons.
Yep, absolutely.
And all of that can be done in the system. Like, there's no limitations to the magic except that you have to explain to the DM how your magical society will be able to do what you're trying to do.
I like that a lot because what it keeps people from doing is this when they're at the table.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that is fantastic.
And what's interesting about this is it still has the same mechanic as swinging a sword. So you still roll a d12. You can still add arcane points to it or mental points if you're an empath. And you can, it still is a 1 through 12 option. So like if it's really easy, it's only going to be like a 4 or 5, and you're going to most likely get that.
Very cool. I'm trying to think. I'm scrolling through here and seeing if I'm like a bonehead missed anything else. It looks like there are lots of NPCs that you've created.
There are
as well,
and they're mostly faction leaders and faction-based people in the world. But there are some that aren't, like Mo. Mo is a Ironbound who runs a old diner in Wolf Water called Greasy Spoon.
Nice. And he has a frying pan. I like that.
And then you have me, the Goblin, which was created by one of my viewers on my Twitch channel. I will not take credit for that. Me is a character that speaks in third person.
Oh, very cool.
And he has
I
a
like it.
brother. He has a brother you and a brother we.
Me, you, and we. That's great.
And it gets very confusing as a DM trying to play me.
Oh, you know what else we didn't talk about are the different species.
Oh yeah, we didn't. So we have archlings, which are half angels. They're basically humans that mate with angels to produce an offspring. You have the unseen, which are regular humans who have some kind of magical power. So this situation is or know of the magic world. So the example of this would be like um a charlatan that is using magic to win over people at a psychic reading. Could be an unseen. And then you have Ironbound, which the Ironbound are humans who have no idea that magic exists in the world, and you can play them. So it's really interesting to get a player who chooses Ironbound and then have a were creature transform their very first time in front of them.
I would say that would lead to a puddle under the Ironbound.
It leads to a mental check, and hopefully they pass that mental check.
That's great.
And then you have your were creatures, like I said, were lions, were tigers, were bears. You have my brain is all over the place. Fae. Your fae is a really open term for things like goblins, dwarfs, elves. It can also include fairies and sprites. It can also include things like Yeti or monsters that you. I have a fae character who is a lava monster. So he kind of has lava. It's all. We chose to make it so it's non-functional. It's just aesthetics. But he has lava coming down his face in one of the games.
That's cool.
And then you have, let's see, I think I got everywhere. Oh, in the vampires, which we've talked about, the Korafon vampires and the Emovarians. The Korafon vampires are your typical Buffy the Vampire Slayer vampires. They drink blood. They are just like that. Your Emovarians, have you ever seen What They Do in the Dark or What They See in the Dark, the vampire comedy?
Was that the one? No, I don't think I have seen that.
You should see it. It's really funny. It's on Hulu.
I'm gonna write that down.
But what shadows? I'm spacing on it now. Anyways, look up vampire comedy. It's gonna come up. But they have a vampire who actually absorbs people's emotions and make them sadder or happier based on what they need. And that's the inspiration for the Emovarian vampires. I wanted somebody to be able to suck emotion out of someone.
That is cool.
What We Do in the Shadows. That's what it's called. Thank you so much, chat.
Hey, what's up, Jim? How are you, man? That's my buddy Jim. And I'll pop him up here. The emotional vampire rules.
Yeah, What We Do in the Shadows is hilarious. It's great.
Awesome. Well, my friend, that was all I had. I know you're probably ready for bed. You look like you could fall asleep.
I'm actually probably going to stream here in a little bit.
You're crazy. I mean, I've got my other stream coming up. So. Yeah, we're going to see how we both do for the remainder of the night.
Yeah, I'm so places that people can find me. I am on Twitch. I'm on YouTube. But you can also join my Discord from either of those pages. And if you want more information, go to BackerKit. Go to the link in the description below.
Yeah, and I will make sure I will have you send me the link for your Discord, and I will put that in the description as well.
Excellent. I will send that right after we get done.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you enjoyed this, maybe give it a like and think of subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't already, be sure to head over to BackerKit and back Ironbound. This game is going to kick some ass. And yeah, I will definitely be jumping in for sure.
I'm already starting on my second book.
Oh, nice. Well, do tell.
It's going to be anamorphic superheroes. So it's going to be Zootopia with superheroes.
Very cool. Judy Hopps can really hop.
I was thinking Darkwing Duck was an inspiration.
Nice.
So
that's awesome. Well, I will definitely, we're going to have to catch up off stream because it sounds like there's still a ton we'll have to talk about. And I don't know if everybody realized this from my intro. We live like 20 minutes from each other, which we didn't know until yesterday, I think.
Yeah. So
when we figured that out. And so, yeah, we're going to have to get together and cause some trouble.
Exactly.
All right. Well, my friend, you have a good night. Everybody out there in the world, have a good evening. And if you feel like rejoining at 9 o'clock, I'll be on with Dave and Dieter and our special guest, the Neon Lord himself, Brian Shutter. And we'd love to have you tune in, or you can go over and check out Dave's stream over on Twitch.
Yeah, if I haven't decided I'm doing it yet, but I'm 95% sure I'm going to do it. So,
all right. Well, have a great night, folks, and thanks for joining us.